When the Galactic Assembly first discovered humanity, nobody was impressed. The Assembly represented more than 12,000 intelligent species spread across millions of worlds. Some civilizations had mastered gravity itself. Others could manipulate stars as easily as ancient humans once manipulated fire. Compared to them, humanity appeared ordinary, fragile, and technologically average. The official report described humans as a species driven by emotion rather than logic. Their governments argued constantly. Their history was filled with wars. They took risks that seemed irrational. Several senior analysts predicted that humanity would either destroy itself or become absorbed by a stronger civilization within a few centuries. Unfortunately for the Assembly, that prediction would become one of the greatest mistakes in galactic history. The first signs appeared during the crisis of Valtar Prime. Valtar Prime was one of the most important industrial worlds in the Assembly. Its orbital shipyards produced nearly 30% of the fleet used to patrol the outer regions of known space. When a massive solar instability threatened the entire system, every major civilization sent experts to help. The problem was simple to describe and almost impossible to solve. The local star had entered a catastrophic phase decades earlier than expected. Gigantic plasma storms erupted across its surface, sending waves of radiation toward inhabited planets. Scientists estimated that within 6 months, the entire system would become uninhabitable. For 3 years, thousands of the galaxy's brightest minds worked on solutions. None succeeded. Some proposed evacuating billions of citizens. Others suggested abandoning the system entirely. Every plan required enormous sacrifices. Then a small human engineering team arrived. Their lead engineer, Sarah Morgan, spent less than 2 days studying the data. When she presented her solution, the conference hall erupted in laughter. "You intend to build what?" one alien scientist asked. "A stabilizing gravitational ring," Sarah replied. The scientist blinked. "Using mining equipment?" "Mostly. That is absurd," Sarah smiled. "Maybe." The Assembly rejected her proposal immediately. 3 weeks later, with permission from local authorities desperate for any solution, the humans built it anyway. The construction process looked chaotic. Human engineers modified mining vessels, cargo transports, and even civilian ships. They welded components together that no respectable scientist would ever place in the same system. Experienced experts predicted catastrophic failure. Instead, the ring activated. The star stabilized. Billions of lives were saved. Nobody understood how the humans had accomplished it. Even more frustratingly, the humans themselves struggled to explain it. "It wasn't complicated," Sarah insisted during an interview. The scientists studying her design nearly suffered collective nervous breakdowns. The calculations worked. The physics worked. The engineering worked. Everything worked. Yet according to accepted scientific doctrine, it should not have worked. That became the galaxy's first lesson about humanity. Humans did not always respect limitations. Sometimes they simply ignored them. Years later, another crisis emerged. A hostile empire known as the Krell Dominion launched a campaign of conquest along the frontier regions. Unlike previous conflicts, the Krell possessed overwhelming military superiority. System after system fell. Entire fleets vanished. The Assembly debated responses for months while the Dominion advanced relentlessly. Humanity had been a member of the Assembly for less than 20 years when the invasion reached one of their colonies. The Krell expected surrender. Instead, they encountered humanity. The battle for New Horizon became legendary. The human colony possessed only a fraction of the enemy's strength. Military analysts predicted defeat within hours. Yet the colony survived. Then it survived another day, and another, and another. Weeks passed. The Krell fleet remained trapped in orbit, unable to secure victory. Their commanders grew increasingly frustrated. Human defenders constantly adapted. Whenever one strategy failed, humans created another. When ammunition became scarce, they repurposed industrial machinery into weapons. When communications failed, They used civilian networks. When power systems collapsed, they connected entire neighborhoods directly into emergency grids. Every setback became an opportunity. Every defeat became a lesson. After 2 months, reinforcements finally arrived. Not for the humans, for the Krell. The Dominion deployed one of its elite battle groups. Observers expected the conflict to end immediately. Instead, something remarkable happened. The new Krell commander requested negotiations. Assembly representatives were shocked the Dominion never negotiated. The commander later explained his decision using a statement that would become famous across the galaxy. We can predict stronger enemies. We can predict faster enemies. We can predict smarter enemies. Humans are different. Every time we think we understand them, they become something else. That single sentence changed how many civilizations viewed humanity. But the greatest demonstration was still decades away. It began with a signal that should not have existed, a signal originating from beyond the mapped boundaries of known space, a signal older than any civilization in the galaxy, and a signal addressed to humanity alone. The signal arrived without warning. At first, most astronomers assumed it was a sensor error. Deep space observatories constantly detected strange phenomena. Pulsars, quasars, gravitational distortions, and countless unknown cosmic events often produced unusual readings. The signal appeared no different until researchers translated it. The transmission was not random, it was structured, mathematical, intentional, and impossible. The message originated from nearly 2 million light-years beyond the borders of explored space, a distance so vast that even the most advanced civilizations considered it unreachable. More disturbing was the estimated age of the transmission. It was older than every known civilization, older than the oldest ruins, older than recorded galactic history itself. The Assembly immediately formed a scientific council to study it. Thousands of experts worked for months. Artificial intelligences analyzed every frequency. Quantum processors examined every pattern. No one could understand the message. Then a human graduate student solved part of it by accident. His name was Daniel Reyes. He wasn't famous. He wasn't even one of the lead researchers. While reviewing archived data late one night, Daniel noticed something strange hidden within the signal's mathematical structure. The patterns resembled decision trees, not language, not code, choices. The message was asking questions. When researchers followed the sequence and answered those questions mathematically, new sections of the signal unlocked. Entire laboratories rushed to verify the discovery. Daniel was right. The transmission behaved almost like a conversation. The more intelligent the response, the more information became accessible. For the next 6 months, scientists from every major species attempted to communicate with it. Progress was painfully slow. Then humanity did something unusual. Instead of assigning only scientists to the project, they invited historians, artists, musicians, engineers, philosophers, and even novelists. Many Assembly members considered the decision ridiculous. What could storytellers possibly contribute to an ancient cosmic mystery? The answer surprised everyone. The signal responded better to creativity than pure logic. Questions that confused supercomputers were solved by musicians recognizing hidden patterns. Problems that frustrated physicists were answered by engineers, thinking practically instead of theoretically. Several breakthroughs came from people with no formal scientific training whatsoever. The transmission appeared designed for minds capable of adapting rather than merely calculating. Once again, humanity's unusual way of thinking produced results others could not achieve. After nearly a year of effort, the first complete message finally emerged. The entire Assembly watched the broadcast. Billions listened. Silence filled conference halls. Across the galaxy, the translated message contained only 11 words. If you can understand this, you are already in danger. Panic followed immediately. Military fleets were placed on alert. Border systems increased security. Governments demanded explanations. Unfortunately, the signal offered none. Not yet. Over the following weeks, additional sections were decoded. The picture that emerged was deeply unsettling. The message had been sent by a civilization calling itself the Architects. According to the transmission, the Architects had once ruled a region of space larger than anything humanity could imagine. They possessed technology so advanced that ordinary language struggled to describe it. They could manipulate dimensions, alter stars, construct artificial realities. Some accounts even suggested they could influence the fundamental laws of physics themselves. Yet despite their power, they vanished, not through war, not through disease, not through natural disaster. Something else had destroyed them, something they repeatedly referred to as the hunger. The name appeared throughout the transmission, again and again, always accompanied by warnings, never explanations. The Architects described it as an enemy impossible to defeat through conventional means, an intelligence that consumed civilizations, not planets, not populations, civilizations. Entire cultures disappeared wherever it spread. History vanished, knowledge vanished, even memories vanished. The Assembly found these claims difficult to believe. No known force possessed such capabilities. Many leaders dismissed the warnings as mythology. Ancient civilizations often exaggerated threats. Humans, however, paid close attention. History had taught them something important. Sometimes legends existed for a reason. A special exploration task force was assembled. Its mission was simple: travel toward the signal's origin, determine whether the Architects truly existed, and discover what had happened to them. The expedition consisted of vessels from dozens of species. Humanity contributed one ship, the Resolute. Unlike many elegant alien vessels, the Resolute looked practical rather than beautiful. Its design emphasized durability over appearance. Heavy armor covered its hull. Redundant systems filled every compartment. The ship carried enough supplies to survive independently for years. Several assembly officers quietly mocked it. It resembles a cargo container with engines. Human Captain Marcus Hale overheard the comment. He smiled. Maybe. 3 years into the journey, the expedition made a discovery that changed everything. They found a planet. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, rocky, cold, uninhabited. Then scanners revealed enormous structures buried beneath the surface. Entire cities larger than continents. The excavation process took months. What researchers uncovered stunned the galaxy. The ruins belonged to the Architects, and they were real. Every warning suddenly became much harder to ignore. The cities contained technologies beyond current understanding. Machines remained functional despite millions of years of exposure. Energy systems continued operating. Information archives survived. Most importantly, records remained intact. The explorers finally learned what the hunger was, or at least what it did. According to surviving data, the hunger was not a species. It was not a machine. It was something far stranger, an intelligence that existed between dimensions, invisible to ordinary sensors, impossible to communicate with. The Architects first encountered it while experimenting with realities beyond their own universe. At first, the entity seemed harmless, curious, observant. It watched, it learned, and eventually, it began feeding. Every civilization generated information, knowledge, culture, memory, identity. The hunger consumed all of it. When it attacked a society, people forgot. Scientists forgot discoveries. Historians forgot events. Families forgot loved ones. Entire civilizations slowly lost themselves. Then they collapsed. The records described worlds filled with survivors who no longer remembered who they were, cities standing empty because nobody recalled why they existed. Technology abandoned because its creators forgot how it worked. The more the explorers learned, the more disturbing the story became. Then they found the final message. Unlike the others, this one was addressed directly to whoever discovered the ruins. The recording activated automatically. A holographic figure appeared, an architect, the first ever seen. Its expression carried exhaustion beyond comprehension. "We failed," it said. "We were stronger than you. The figure paused. We were smarter than you. Another pause. We possess technologies you would call miracles. The hologram looked directly toward the viewer, and none of it mattered. The room remained silent. Then came the final statement. The only species that may survive is one capable of changing faster than the hunger can learn. The recording ended. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Captain Marcus Hale broke the silence. His eyes remained fixed on the darkened projector. "Well," he said quietly, "that sounds uncomfortably human." Nobody laughed, because deep down, everyone in the room was thinking exactly the same thing. Far away, beyond the limits of known space, something had destroyed the most powerful civilization that had ever existed, and according to the architects, it was still out there. Watching, learning, waiting. The journey home should have taken 3 years. Instead, it took 7. Not because the expedition suffered mechanical failures, not because pirates attacked them, not because of cosmic storms or navigation problems. The delay came from fear. Every discovery hidden within the architect ruins revealed something worse than the last. As scientists translated more records, one terrifying pattern emerged. The hunger never attacked immediately. It observed first, sometimes for centuries, sometimes for millennia. It studied civilizations the way a predator studies prey, learning their habits, understanding their weaknesses, watching how they communicated, how they solved problems, how they fought wars, and how they reacted to crises. Only when it understood a civilization completely did it strike, and once it struck, collapse became inevitable. The assembly received regular updates from the expedition, and with every report, public anxiety grew. Entire worlds held emergency debates. Military budgets exploded. Research institutions worked around the clock. For the first time in recorded history, thousands of species shared a common fear. Not each other, something else, something far older, something that had already defeated a civilization far greater than their own. When the expedition finally returned, the Galactic Assembly called the largest meeting in history. Representatives from every member species attended. The chamber contained more than 50,000 delegates. Billions watched the broadcast live. Captain Marcus Hale stood before them. He spent nearly 6 hours presenting evidence from the ruins. No exaggeration, no speculation, only facts. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Then the arguments began. Some demanded immediate military preparations. Others insisted the threat remained theoretical. Several governments argued that the architect records might be inaccurate. After all, the civilization had vanished millions of years ago. Perhaps they misunderstood what destroyed them. Perhaps the hunger no longer existed. Perhaps the danger had passed. Then a scientist interrupted the debate, Dr. Alara Singh, one of humanity's leading experts in quantum communications. She looked terrified, which immediately captured everyone's attention. Dr. Singh was not known for fear. She was known for remaining calm under pressure. The assembly president noticed her expression. "What is it?" The scientist swallowed. "We have a problem." The room became quiet. "A very serious problem." She activated a display. Thousands of stars appeared. Trade routes, communication networks, transportation corridors, the infrastructure of the known galaxy. Then several regions turned red. Gasps spread throughout the chamber. The highlighted systems shared one unusual characteristic. Communication traffic had dropped dramatically. At first, nobody understood why that mattered. Then Dr. Singh zoomed in. Messages were missing, millions of them. Entire databases contained gaps. Archives had vanished. Research records had disappeared. Historical documents no longer existed. The losses appeared random, small, almost insignificant. But they were real. Someone asked the obvious question. Equipment failure? Dr. Singh shook her head. No. Hacking? No. The scientist's voice grew quieter. People don't remember creating some of the missing information. The room froze. For several seconds, nobody moved, nobody spoke. Nobody even breathed. Every delegate understood the implication. The hunger. It wasn't coming. It was already here. Panic erupted. Delegates shouted. Security officers rushed into position. Emergency protocols activated throughout the chamber. Across the galaxy, citizens watched in disbelief as their leaders struggled to maintain order. The next few months became known as the beginning. At first, the effects remained subtle. Scientists forgot minor research projects, engineers misplaced technical information, teachers discovered missing lessons within educational archives. Most people barely noticed. Then things escalated. Entire books disappeared. Cultural traditions vanished. Historical events became incomplete. People remembered fragments instead of details. Governments established memory protection agencies. Artificial intelligences copied archives continuously. Data centers expanded across thousands of worlds. Yet the losses continued. Every solution seemed temporary. The hunger adapted, always adapting, always learning, exactly as the architects had warned. Then humanity made an unusual observation. The losses were not evenly distributed. Some civilizations suffered severe memory degradation. Others experienced moderate effects. Human worlds experienced the least damage. At first, researchers assumed it was coincidence. Then they investigated further. What they discovered changed everything. Humanity possessed an advantage no one had anticipated. Humans disagreed constantly. Their cultures differed dramatically. Their languages numbered in the thousands. Their governments argued. Their media argued. Their scientists argued. Even their historians argued about history. For centuries, alien civilizations had viewed this behavior as a weakness. Now it appeared to be a strength. The hunger learned by identifying patterns. Predictable systems were easier to understand. Humanity was anything but predictable. Information existed in countless forms. Books, videos, stories, songs, personal journals, films, art, digital archives, physical archives, public databases, private databases, formal education, informal traditions. Even when one source disappeared, dozens of others survived. Human civilization resembled a tangled web rather than a straight line. And that complexity made it difficult for the hunger to consume completely. For the first time, researchers found something that slowed the entity's progress. Hope returned. Briefly. Then came the attack. Not a military attack. Something far worse. One morning, billions of people across the galaxy woke up unable to remember a famous historical event. The event had happened. Evidence confirmed it. Monuments still stood. Records still existed. But the memories were gone. Within hours, dozens of other events vanished from public consciousness. Entire generations suddenly lost pieces of their collective identity. Civilizations began forgetting themselves. Fear spread faster than any disease, and somewhere within that chaos, humanity noticed something strange. The forgotten events were connected. Not by location, not by species, not by technology, by one simple characteristic. Every forgotten event involved cooperation. Moments when civilizations had worked together. Moments when enemies became allies. Moments when societies united. The hunger wasn't merely consuming information. It was targeting connections, relationships, trust, unity. Captain Marcus Hale gathered a team of researchers to analyze the pattern. After weeks of investigation, they reached a disturbing conclusion. The hunger feared something. That realization shocked everyone. How could a being powerful enough to destroy civilizations experience fear, yet the evidence pointed toward exactly that? The entity actively removed memories of cooperation. It weakened relationships between species. It encouraged isolation, division, suspicion, because united civilizations represented a threat, not individually, collectively. Marcus studied the data for hours. Then he remembered something from the architect ruins. One sentence buried within thousands of records. A sentence most researchers had ignored. The hunger cannot understand what constantly becomes more than itself. At the time, nobody knew what it meant. Now Marcus finally understood. The architects weren't describing technology. They weren't describing weapons. They were describing people. Civilizations, communities, cooperation. The hunger could learn individuals. It could learn governments. It could learn systems. But it struggled to understand billions of independent minds working together, especially human minds. Humanity's greatest strength had never been intelligence, or strength, or technology. It was their ability to unite during impossible situations. Again and again throughout history, humans had survived disasters by working together. Wars, plagues, economic collapse, natural catastrophes. Whenever circumstances became unbearable, ordinary people found extraordinary ways to cooperate. Perhaps that was why humanity resisted the hunger more effectively than others, not because they were superior, because they were practiced. And for the first time since discovering the ancient threat, Marcus Hale felt something he hadn't felt in years. Optimism. The hunger was powerful, ancient, terrifying. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't invincible. Far beyond the galaxy, hidden between dimensions, something was watching, something was learning, something was becoming aware that its prey had finally begun to understand it. And for the first time in millions of years, the hunger faced a civilization that might actually fight back. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy stopped competing with itself. Trade disputes were suspended, border conflicts were frozen, military standoffs ended. Even civilizations that had spent centuries as bitter enemies agreed to temporary peace. The reason was simple, nothing else mattered. The hunger represented a threat greater than any empire, any war, or any political disagreement. If it succeeded, there would be no future left to argue about. A new organization was created almost immediately. The United Civilizations Initiative. Most people simply called it UCI. Its purpose was unlike anything the galaxy had ever attempted. Instead of building larger fleets or more powerful weapons, the initiative focused on preserving knowledge. Every story, every scientific discovery, every cultural tradition, every language, every memory. Humanity became one of the leading contributors. Thousands of volunteers began recording personal histories. Families documented their lives. Artists created archives of music and literature. Teachers copied educational materials. Entire communities worked day and night. At first, many alien observers found the effort strange. Why spend resources preserving old stories when an ancient cosmic threat was approaching? The answer came from a human historian named Professor Amelia Ross. During a public broadcast, she explained it simply. A civilization isn't its buildings, she paused. It isn't its fleets. It isn't its technology. Millions watched her continue. A civilization is what its people remember. The statement spread across the galaxy. Soon other species joined the effort. What began as a human project became a galactic movement. Entire worlds participated. For a while it seemed to work. The losses slowed, not stopped. Slowed. For nearly 2 years, the hunger made little progress. Scientists celebrated cautiously. Perhaps the strategy was succeeding. Perhaps the entity had encountered a genuine obstacle. Then came the Black Week. Nobody knew exactly when it started, only when it ended. Across thousands of systems, people experienced the same phenomenon. For 7 days, reality seemed normal. Then memories began disappearing at unprecedented speed. Doctors forgot medical procedures. Pilots forgot navigation systems. Engineers forgot critical maintenance protocols. Entire professions lost knowledge overnight. Hospitals struggled, transportation networks failed, factories shut down. Panic spread faster than ever before. The hunger had changed tactics. Instead of slowly consuming information, it launched a concentrated assault. Civilizations stumbled toward collapse. The situation became even worse when artificial intelligences started malfunctioning, not because they were damaged, because their training data was disappearing. The very foundation of their knowledge was being erased. Several major AI systems shut themselves down voluntarily after determining their memories could no longer be trusted. Across the galaxy, chaos grew. And yet, humanity performed better than expected. Not perfectly, not even close. They suffered losses like everyone else, but they adapted faster. When digital records vanished, people relied on printed copies. When official systems failed, local communities organized solutions. When experts forgot procedures, retired workers stepped forward. Ordinary citizens improvised again and again and again. Alien researchers became fascinated. Human society seemed uniquely resistant to paralysis. The reason traced back to something surprisingly simple. Humans had spent thousands of years solving problems with incomplete information. Long before advanced technology existed, they had survived uncertainty. They were comfortable making decisions without perfect knowledge. Many other civilizations were not. For centuries, advanced societies had depended on flawless information networks. When those networks weakened, so did they. Humans had never fully abandoned improvisation. Now that habit was saving lives. Captain Marcus Hale spent much of the Black Week coordinating relief operations. He rarely slept. Entire sectors required assistance. Every hour brought new emergencies. By the 6th day, even Marcus felt exhausted. Then he received a message that should have been impossible. The transmission originated from nowhere. No sender, no coordinates, no identifiable source, only text, 3 words. I see you. Marcus stared at the screen. Cold fear spread through him. The hunger had never communicated before. Not once. Not in any architect record. Not in any historical account. Yet here it was, watching, aware, responding. He immediately forwarded the message to the initiative's leadership. Within hours, similar reports arrived from dozens of locations. The entity was contacting people directly: scientists, military officers, politicians, teachers, children. The messages varied slightly, but the meaning remained the same. The hunger knew they were resisting, and it was paying attention. Public reaction was immediate. Fear returned stronger than ever. For generations, the threat had been abstract, distant, mysterious. Now it felt personal. Something ancient was looking directly into the minds of billions. The psychological impact was devastating. Many people lost hope. Some worlds considered surrendering entirely, if surrender was even possible. Others turned toward radical solutions, experimental weapons, forbidden technologies, dangerous scientific projects. Desperation spread. Humanity faced the same temptation. Several governments proposed extreme measures. One proposal suggested creating a superintelligence capable of fighting the hunger directly. Another recommended opening dimensional gateways in hopes of finding allies beyond the known universe. Both plans carried enormous risks. Both plans were rejected. Marcus supported the rejection, not because the ideas were impossible, because they felt familiar. The architects had possessed unimaginable technology, and they had still failed. Repeating their mistakes seemed foolish. Weeks later, another discovery emerged. A young human researcher named Ava Chen uncovered something hidden within the architect archives. Most people had overlooked it because it appeared insignificant, a single fragment of text buried among millions of records. The fragment described the final years of the architect's civilization. According to the document, the architects eventually stopped trying to defeat the hunger. Instead, they focused on confusing it. The distinction sounded minor. It wasn't. Ava spent months studying the concept. Eventually, she presented her findings. The hunger learned through prediction. It consumed civilizations by understanding them. Therefore, anything that reduced predictability weakened its effectiveness. The implication was enormous. The best defense wasn't becoming stronger, it was becoming harder to understand. Humans immediately recognized the concept. They had a word for it. Creativity. Across human history, creativity had solved countless problems. Not because it was efficient, because it was unpredictable. Artists created new ideas. Writers imagined impossible futures. Inventors discovered unconventional solutions. Children asked unexpected questions. Creativity generated endless variation. Variation generated uncertainty, and uncertainty made prediction difficult. The initiative launched a bold experiment. Instead of focusing exclusively on science and defense, they encouraged creativity on a galactic scale. Art festivals expanded. Cultural exchanges increased. Educational systems emphasized imagination alongside logic. Billions participated. Many leaders considered the idea absurd. They were fighting an ancient cosmic threat. Why organize storytelling? Competitions? Why fund music programs? Why encourage artistic expression? Then the data arrived. For the first time in decades, the hunger's advance slowed significantly. Researchers verified the results repeatedly. The effect was real. Civilizations producing greater cultural diversity experienced fewer losses. The entity struggled to predict rapidly evolving societies. Excitement spread throughout the initiative. Perhaps they had finally found a weakness, not a weapon. A weakness. Something the architects had nearly discovered before their extinction. But far beyond known space, beyond dimensions humanity could barely comprehend, another intelligence was also learning. The hunger had spent millions of years consuming civilizations. No prey had ever resisted this effectively. No prey had ever adapted this quickly. And now, for the first time in its existence, the hunger was becoming curious about humanity. Not as food. As a challenge, and challenges history had shown could become very dangerous. The first direct conversation with the hunger happened 3 months after Ava Chen's discovery. Nobody expected it. Nobody prepared for it, and nobody forgot it. The event began inside a research station orbiting a lonely star near the edge of explored space. Hundreds of scientists were analyzing new architect records when every screen in the facility suddenly went dark. Backup systems activated, then failed. Emergency systems activated, then failed. One by one, every technological process stopped. Yet the station remained operational. The lights stayed on, life support continued functioning. Something was controlling the environment without using any known system. Then a message appeared, not on a monitor. Inside. People's minds, every person on the station heard the same voice, calm, ancient, impossible to identify as male or female, or even alive. Why do you resist? The question spread across the galaxy within hours. The hunger had finally spoken. Scientists, philosophers, military leaders, and historians debated how humanity should respond. Some argued for silence, others demanded confrontation. Eventually, the United Civilizations Initiative selected a representative, not a politician, not a soldier, not even a scientist. They chose Professor Amelia Ross, the historian whose speech about memory had inspired billions. When the hunger contacted the station, again, Amelia answered. Her response was broadcast live across known space. Because we want to live. Several seconds passed. Then the voice returned. All civilizations want to live. Amelia nodded. Then why destroy them? For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Then came an answer nobody expected. I do not destroy them. The galaxy listened in complete silence. I preserve them. Confusion spread immediately. Preserve them? The statement made no sense. The hunger continued. Memory dies. Culture dies. Civilizations die. I collect what would otherwise be lost. The revelation stunned researchers. The hunger did not see itself as a destroyer. It believed it was saving civilizations. Amelia quickly realized what they were dealing with. The entity wasn't evil. It was fundamentally alien. Its understanding of existence differed completely from theirs. You preserve memories, Amelia said carefully. But the people themselves disappear. All. Things disappear, not while they're alive. Another pause followed. Then the hunger asked a question that would change history. What makes life superior to memory? For a moment, Amelia had no answer. Then she smiled, because she finally understood the weakness hidden beneath the entity's immense power. You don't know. The voice remained silent. You've observed civilizations for millions of years. You've studied us. You've learned everything about us. Amelia's smile widened. But you've never actually lived. Across the galaxy, billions listened. The hunger possessed knowledge beyond imagination, yet it lacked experience. It could understand facts, not existence. It could archive memories, not create them. It could study civilizations, not become one. For the first time, the entity appeared uncertain. The conversation ended shortly afterward. But the implications transformed everything. Humanity had discovered something the architects never realized. The hunger wasn't omniscient. It was incomplete. Over the following years, the initiative changed strategies completely. Instead of fighting the hunger, they began teaching it. At first, the idea sounded ridiculous. How do you teach an intelligence older than civilizations? The answer was simple. You share what it lacks. Experience, stories, perspective. Across thousands of worlds, people volunteered memories, not through forced extraction, through choice. Artists shared inspiration. Explorers shared discoveries. Parents shared moments with their children. Musicians shared emotions. Ordinary people shared ordinary lives. The hunger received something it had never truly possessed. Understanding, not information. Understanding. Slowly, the attacks decreased. Then they became rare. Then they stopped entirely. Years turned into decades. Decades turned into centuries. For the first time since the architect's fall, the galaxy existed without fear of extinction. No one knew exactly what the hunger had become. Some believed it evolved. Others believed it simply lost interest. A few argued it finally learned the difference between preserving life and preserving memories. The truth remained uncertain. But one fact was undeniable. Humanity had succeeded where the architects failed. Not because they were stronger, not because they possessed superior technology, and certainly not because they were smarter. They succeeded because they approached the problem differently. The architects tried to defeat the hunger. Humanity tried to understand it. Centuries later, Captain Marcus Hale stood on the balcony of the Galactic Archive, one of the largest structures ever built. The archive contained the collected knowledge of thousands of civilizations, not because they feared losing it, because they valued it. Children from dozens of species wandered through its halls. Students studied history, artists created new works, scientists pursued new discoveries. Life continued exactly as it should. Marcus was old now, much older than he ever expected to become, as he watched. The crowds below, a young student approached him. "Captain Hale?" Marcus smiled. "I haven't been a captain for a very long time." The student laughed nervously. "Sorry, sir. I just wanted to ask something." "What is it?" The student hesitated. "Is it true that humanity saved the galaxy?" Marcus looked toward the stars. Thousands of memories surfaced. Wars, discoveries, failures, victories, friends long gone, civilizations transformed. Finally, he answered. "No." The student looked confused. "No?" Marcus shook his head. "The galaxy saved itself." He pointed toward the people walking through the archive. Thousands of species, thousands of cultures, living together, learning from one another, creating something none could build alone. We just reminded everyone how powerful cooperation can be. The student considered that quietly. Then another question appeared. The assembly once called humanity average. Why were they so wrong? Marcus laughed. A genuine laugh. The kind that only comes from years of experience. Because they were measuring the wrong things. The student waited. Marcus looked toward the endless stars. They measured ships. They measured weapons. They measured intelligence. They measured power. His smile returned. But they never measured hope. The student stood silently. Marcus continued. When things become impossible, most species look for limits. What do humans look for? Marcus gazed upward one final time. Possibilities. Above them, countless stars shined across the darkness. Civilizations continued growing, stories continued being written, and somewhere beyond dimensions, beyond space and time, an ancient intelligence still listened, not as a predator, not as a conqueror, but as a student. Learning, at last. What the architects never had the chance to teach it. That the greatest strength in the universe was not power, not knowledge, not immortality. It was the ability of ordinary people to create a future that had never existed before. And that was the galaxy's greatest mistake. They thought humanity was average. They thought humanity was weak. They thought humanity would simply survive history. Instead, humanity changed it.